So today we'll be making these lovely roses and wiring them with the foliage, and you are going to need your stem wire, your stem tape and your trusty glue gun, and you're also going to need this code for the rose, and we'll get started.
Hi there, welcome back to the Creative Button. Today we are going to make some roses. I've chosen red because that's the start of the rainbow. This is the one we are going to make. Please look at the cry cut code on one of my slides. There is a little bit of a mix of leaves which I have also wired on, so you can see the back is quite neat as well. I will show you how to make the flower and how to wire it. You are going to need some card. I've been using the Paper Mania colossal packs. It's 12 by 12, which is great, and it's 216 GSM, and it's a solid core, so it's not just a coated. Obviously you don't want it one colour on one side and not on the other. There is a direct setting on cry cut for that, so you shouldn't need to change it, although I do tend to put it on more pressure just to make sure to make it easier when I take everything off the mat. Now I've skipped on today, my cat did not jump all over my petals, which is good. Now we've got several constituents. Obviously we've got the main middle bit and then all these little petals with a slit that comes, which we fold in. So get your glue gun ready. I'm going to show you how to, I need a longer lead on my glue gun because it's very stubborn sometimes. So I pre-roll these, so I just get a paintbrush and I just gently roll it around so you don't get square petals, just to get it into the right position before you start doing the outer petals, and then we shape the outer petals and then we can add those at the end. So grab your glue, put a little lump on. Now I put one blob of glue on one side and then I literally just bend it over and hold it until it sets, and then you've got a nicely shaped. Now some of them you can roll, some of them I tend to just get a paintbrush and I just gently roll those top parts because it makes it look a little softer and not so rigid. So you can see there, just another little detail. I'm going to do one more and then we'll assemble it. So there we go. So again, just crossing over those petals at the base, holding it with your finger for a couple of seconds, and then we're good to go. And I'll make a few of those up at a time because you don't want to keep stopping and starting. You can roll these petals afterwards if you want, so that you can see how they look when they're actually with the flower, but it depends on how you make stuff. So the first thing is to get any of these little bits that didn't quite come off when we cut it out. As I said, these are quite large flowers as well, so we roll it up. So this one here I've already pre-rolled, so it's a little easier. You can hold the middle with a pair of tweezers if you wish, and then we're going to just take it into its circle, and then I normally flip it around the other way so I can kind of see how it's looking, because sometimes they don't necessarily. Now that's not too bad. If I show you, not too bad. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and glue that. Now again, you need about 4 pairs of hands to do this. So you want to hold it in a rough position. Make sure that that centre curl doesn't loosen off too much because you don't want to see the inside. So I'm just going to tighten that slightly, and then I'm going to put a nice blob of glue on the base. And then we're going to pop the majority of those petals onto that circular base, which starts to build up that shape. And then you can start to sort of manipulate it and soften those petals and make them a little rounder. So there you've got your basic rose, and then we can start to add those larger ones. So there are two different sizes within this rose template, so you probably need to use the smaller ones on the inner petals, and I always use the halfway between each petal, so you end up with a nice, you don't want them all lined up because that looks too regimented, so you want them to unfurl. So you've got to imagine that you're looking at a real rose. Now to do this, I literally just get a little blob of glue, not too much, you don't want to see it where possible because it looks untidy, and then pick the place that you're going to add, which I've done there, and then just hold that till that's sat in position, getting those glue webs again everywhere. Okay, so we're going to hold that like that, and then you work your way round the whole of this. So again, I'm just overlapping it as I go. Some of these I've already pre-curled the petals. Get rid of those little webs and then move all the way around until you're happy with how full your rose looks. And you can change them up, they don't need to all be the same. So you just hold that again. I'm going to do another one. So put that glue right on the base of the petal, and it's starting to grow a bit now, and I'm just again just curling it round just to make it look nice and realistic. Now these are quite large flowers, they fill quite a lot of gaps on this wreath, so, and they are quite a focal point flower. Oh, sun's come out, it's been horrible all day, now we've got a bit of sunshine, which is good. So attention to detail again, and you can see how that's coming along now. So I've got my finger stuck on the base of it. So we're going to carry on until we're happy with the way we think it looks, and of course it's not, you can use your own judgment to see how full you want that rose to be. Obviously some roses might be out, some might be tighter in bud, which is all good because you want that variation, because we want it to look as realistic as possible. There we go. Right, I'm going to do one more on this side and then I think we're done. So I'm just going to pop that one like that. And it kind of just sits on the underneath, but don't worry about that because we're going to tidy all that up at the end. So there we go. Okay, so we've got the basic rose now. Now the next thing we're going to do is to wire it. Okay, so now we've got the base flower, we need to wire it. Now you're going to need the same flat stem wind that you had before, and I have also made up these little thingies here which are to basically cover this and make it look more realistic. Now I forgot to put a cut in here, so I'm literally going to just cut this like that I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on here, and then we're just going to pull it around just to give it some 3D quality. So we're going to pull that round to that first, like that. So we end up with a slight cone in it. So it's quite inverted. And I've just got quite a lot of glue on there, but we can tidy that up in a second. So take that excess glue off. So then you end up with a concave area, and we are going to select our wire. Now before I specified a 0.71mm wire, which has been working quite well with my daisies. The roses are quite heavy, depending on which size you do, but I have found that this 0.71 wire, or probably a little bit bigger if you wanted to, would work. And then we literally just get your piece of wire, flip over the end so you make an L shape like that, and then we are going to make a little hole in our little conical part, and we are going to poke that wire through so that you don't see that L-shaped part at the top. Here we go. And we're going to pull it so that that then lays flush on the inside of this cone. And then we are going to glue gun that on and then put it onto the rose, and that gives you a really nice neat finish. So there's the glue, and then you want to put it on, push it on as firmly as you can so that that begins to stick. And obviously it depends how shallow it is, so you could pop a little bit more glue on if you feel the need. And then we're just going to wait for that to dry. This is quite an important area, but you do not want to be messing about with this when you put it on to your wreath. And it needs to be quite strong, but this provides a nice cover for all where the petals have joined, and it gives you a really sturdy way of hiding and wiring at the same time. Okay, so there you go. So we've got a really nice rose there all ready to go. And then onto the leaves. Now I've cut some leaves from another file, which I will indicate. I cut quite a lot because I use these quite a lot. I use these on the hydrangeas and other things as well. So I've made quite a lot on one sheet. Probably you could fill a whole sheet with these in varying sizes, and that should keep you going for the majority of the project. And then what we do is, some of them are pre-scored, some of them aren't. If you haven't got a scored one, then just literally back of a pair of scissors, bend it over as you see there. Another piece of wire, possibly the same gauge if that's what you're working with, it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to put a little bit of glue just down this part here, you can see there, and then we can start to build these together. And it's quite nice to have 2 or 3 of these leaves connected to the rose, because it's a nice backdrop. It makes that rose pop on the wreath as well, and it's good at covering the wreath backing. So there we go. So there's your leaf again, and it also allows you to manipulate and curl, so you can go in and curl these leaves at the end if you wish, because obviously not all leaves are going to be dead flat. Okay, now the next part you are going to need to make and put and arrange all these leaves together. So I've always wanted to say this, here's some I made earlier, and we are going to then pop all these stems together. So you need to be able to hold all these stems nice and snug together so that they all run in the same length. Again, just see how, I mean, you can move them afterwards, but you need to kind of get them in a vague group. Okay, and then we're going to need some of our stem wind. Now again, hopefully you've had a little practice doing the daisies, but you need to stretch that stem wind out a little bit to thin the material. And the trickiest bit is joining, starting it off and you need to hold it at a 45-degree angle to your stem, which is really difficult to show you on here. And then just literally hold it between your fingers and try and keep it as taut as possible, and then take that down the stem to encompass all those stems together, so you end up with a really neat finish. And then I normally switch that round, and then I'm going to come back up that other way. There we go. I'm stretching it as I go. It's really easy to forget to not to do that, and then you end up with a really clumpy stem. So there we go. I'm going to break that off there, roll that between my fingers, and then we are going to start to manipulate those flowers. And there you have it, another rose. And obviously you choose the colour. I managed to get 3 roses on one sheet of 3 12-inch by 12-inch, which is probably enough for one of the colour bands on your wreath. You might want to vary the size just to mix it up a little bit, but as a group these start to work really nicely together and give some depth and some texture.
Thank you for watching. Join me again for how to make a ragged daisy in my next video, and don't forget to subscribe.